Hey guys, I'm Erin and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing an ARC review of Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. So this book comes out September 21st if you're interested in picking it up, and I'm very grateful that I was able to get an e-ARC early from NetGalley. So I read The House in the Cerulean Sea earlier this summer, and so I was very excited to get approved for this one because I very much enjoyed The House in the Cerulean Sea, and I just have to go ahead and start off by saying I was kind of let down by this one. This one was just fine. This was like a 3-star read. It was fine, and I'm very sad to report that. Yeah, so there were definitely things I enjoyed, but there were definitely things I didn't, and so we'll talk about both. So this book is about Wallace, who is this grumpy man who's like, he's a lawyer, and he's one of those lawyers that's like really good at his job, but is like a total bitch to all of his employees. Like, he just like expects them to be like at his beck and call, and he just like, that's just kind of who he is, you know. He's one of those people, and he dies at the very beginning of the book. That's in the synopsis. And when he's like at his funeral, there's like pretty almost no one there, and he's like, where is everyone? Why isn't my assistant, you know, crying at my loss, and why are all these people mourning me? And it's like, well, because you're a bad person and you just don't realize it. So he gets found at his funeral by a reaper who takes him to this tea shop that is like kind of this in-between shop. So the shop is in the human world. It's not like a literal other dimension between human and dead. It is still in the human world, but the people who run the tea shop, which is Hugo and then May the Reaper, who also lives there, help ferry dead people on to the afterlife. So they'll come to the tea shop, you know, maybe make some amends, you know, come to terms with the fact they've died, and then they'll go through a door and pass on to the regular afterlife, I suppose. And so he comes to the tea shop, and during his time in the tea shop with Hugo, and then with also just May the Reaper and another secondary character named Nelson, who is Hugo's grandfather, who also is a ghost, who lives at the tea shop, through his interactions kind of with these people, the story is Wallace kind of finding humanity in death, I guess. How you would so the story is essentially, so now that he's at this tea shop, the story is essentially Wallace finding his humanity in death. And at some point, the manager, who's kind of like the big boss of all the Reapers and the ferrymen and kind of this like mythical god creature, tells Wallace that he has 1 week left to wrap his stuff up, and then he's got to move on. And so that's the story in a nutshell. And so the first thing I liked about this was the writing style. One thing I liked a lot in Her House in the Cerulean Sea is the way TJ Klune writes his adult fantasy is this very light and whimsical voice. When I was reading this one, my mind made the connection of, oh, TJ Klune is just the Frederick Bachman of fantasy from a writing style perspective. It's a very similar kind of vibe, but that's what you're into, and that's something you really liked on House in Cerulean Sea. It's something you're really looking for when picking up this one. It definitely delivers on that very well written in that same tone of voice that he does with Cerulean Sea, very much in this one as well. And I did very much like that. That was one thing I liked about Cerulean Sea, and was glad to see in this one as well. I also, again, I like Frederick Bachman when I read non-fantasy, so from all directions, the writing style and kind of vibes in this one very much worked for me. The other thing I did like was two of the secondary characters. So we have the Reaper, May. I thought she was a delight. And then we have Nelson, who is Hugo's grandfather, and Nelson's a ghost who's just kind of hanging out in the tea shop. I love both of them. They were both great. They enhanced every scene they were in, and they were definitely my favorite characters in this book. And so they were great. Now, on to our two main characters. We have Hugo, who runs the tea shop, and Wallace, our grumpy old man, and I just thought they were both fine. Wallace was fine as a character. Like, in the very first chapter, I really liked him because, so I had recently read the book A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachman, and it has a sort of similar premise of curmudgeonly, grumpy man finding humanity, and like, it's different because it differs from there, because I mean, this is a fantasy, but so I kind of got that vibes initially, and I was into it, but then as the book goes on, I just like wasn't really super into Wallace. Like, I don't know, I didn't hate him, but I never felt invested in him as a character or really his story either. He was just kind of fine. And then Hugo, I also just never got invested in. Like, it felt like Hugo was just a walking, talking robot who dispense therapy catchphrases. Like, that felt like all he did. Like, and that was his entire personality, he was just there to kind of throw therapy catchphrases at Wallace, and that was it. There was a romance between those two, and while the romance was certainly not the main point of this book, it was supposed to be kind of a secondary anyways. It just felt kind of thrown in there, like, randomly, and I was at the point where I was like, but where did it come from? Like, why? I just wasn't into it. So unfortunately, both of those characters, while I didn't hate either of them, they were just fine. And then really what this book let me down in the most, the area that I think I liked the least, was the plot. I liked the first like 2 chapters and I liked the last 20%, but the rest of it was very boring. It was just boring. It was that entire, from chapter 3 to 80% was just Wallace bumming around the tea shop, like, talking to people, and it was supposed to be like his journey into finding humanity and becoming a nice person, but I never really felt like, it's like he ended up at the end of that journey being a nicer person, but it felt like we never actually saw the journey unfold. It was like he would start being nicer. I'm like, but what changed? Like, the only thing that, like, you could see that had changed was he was dead. But in that case, why would he need to be nicer? Because he was dead. You know, it's like I felt like I needed more, like, inner character growth as well, and it just felt very surface level. Like, it felt like, I don't know, wasn't into it. And again, with the whole Hugo just throwing out therapy catchphrase in the line, it just felt like there were so many conversations between them that were just kind of that, and it got very repetitive between them. And yeah, I was just bored. Unfortunately. And so I didn't love this book because of that. I think I will be in the minority opinion. It seems like from early reviews I am in the minority, but I think I will continue to be in the minority once it releases. Like, this kind of story will definitely hit right with people. Like, I read a lot of really positive reviews, and like, they get the same kind of emotional hit from the story that they got from House in the Cerulean Sea. And so I think this is still gonna be a very good book for very many people. I just think the storyline itself just wasn't for me, and I think if I had liked either the storyline better, or if I'd become more attached to Hugo and Wallace's characters, I would have liked it better. Like, I just needed one of those to be better. I didn't necessarily need both to be better to like it more, but I am sad to say this was just a 3-star okay read for me. I would still pick up another adult fantasy by TJ Klune if he does another one, because again, I really do like his writing style, and like, I liked House in the Cerulean Sea, so like, it's not just like I've been striking out on his books in total, but unfortunately, just not for me. I hope other people love it, and I think they will. And if any of you are interested in reading it or have read an advanced copy, you know, let me know what you thought of it. I'm definitely interested to hear what other people think, see if anyone else agrees with me, if everyone is just like, no, it was great. So yeah, if you are still interested in picking this one up, it comes out on September 21st, at least in the US. So thank you for watching my video, and I will see you on my next one.